And the dramatic new video that you just saw in Derek's report of the man and his dog being rescued, well, this video is from the helmet cam of a Coast Guard rescue swimmer who saved them both. And he's our guest tonight. And we have his exclusive full video of the rescue. So let's watch how it unfolded. Out front now, Petty Officer Second Class Ted Hudson, his first interview since that daring rescue took place. Officer Hudson, it's terrifying to look at that, the wind and the waves and going down from the helicopter, hoisting him up to rescue him. The man and dog were still on their boat. You arrive. Then what happened?
So we showed up on scene and we assessed the situation. We immediately got me ready to go out the door. The flight mechanic patted on the edge of the helicopter for me to come out and get ready to go down. So they put me on the hoist and hoisted me down, and away I went.
I mean, away you went. I mean, it's terrifying and it's incredible to see. I mean, so you go down, this is shot by your helmet cam. You see how high the waves are. You're literally looking down and then suddenly just going into those waves and then immediately start swimming to rescue. What was that like?
It was a pretty, I think my adrenaline kicked in and I was just going. I didn't have to think about it too much. I've been in training situations in Oregon where I've been in big waves like that. And so I just didn't think about it. Kicked in, swam over to the boat, and started telling them to get in the water so we can get this done as soon as possible, because the helicopter is in 60-mile-an-hour winds. The pilots have to control that the whole time. So it was a dangerous situation to be in, and I was just trying to get out of there as fast as possible.
It's incredible, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and you went down. The dog obviously was terrified. How difficult is it to save an animal in that situation? I mean, just an animal who's in complete terror.
Yeah, honestly, I was super happy to be able to save a dog. I've always seen people do it, and finally got to do it. The dog was a little skeptical at first to jump in, and then he finally decided that he had to jump in, and he swam right to me. So it wasn't really that bad. He swam right to me, and I just held on to his little life vest, and he seemed to do good from there.
So then there's a moment later in the video, let me just show this, where the man reaches over to you to thank you. I mean, you saved this man's life. In that moment of just, complete stress and shock, what did he say?
He just said thank you for saving his life. Later he got on he put a headset on and started talking to us through the helicopter. And he said when he called the Coast Guard, that's when he decided to live.
And then you were able to give him that incredible gift. I mean, he had to abandon his home to save his life. Where did he go after when you landed and he went on his way?
Yeah, so we totally understood the seriousness of that situation, that he left his home. So immediately we Sector St. Pete, which is our call people, and they organized the fire department to come and pick him up and make sure he was safe.
And, we have a second rescue when you went right back out. So you saved this person's life, 60-mile-an-hour winds, you dive into the ocean, the massive waves, and then you go back out. You rescued 2 more people who were trapped on their boat. What happened then?
Yeah, so this was, we actually had 2 rescue swimmers on board. The other one's not here right now. Ben Barden was the other guy. You see him in the other video. He actually went down first, and there was 2 people on that train bridge, I guess it was. And he went down and he called back on the radio and said it'd probably help if Teddy came down and we can carry this lady along the tracks together. So went down to help.
Officer, how does it feel to save a life?
I say it feels pretty good. It's what I joined to do, and that's what we all want to do. Some people don't get to do it, and I say it's a privilege.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that video with us in those moments. Really appreciate it, officer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Death toll rising from Hurricane Helene. Now in Georgia, at least 15 people we know have been killed. That is one of the highest death tolls of any state hit by the hurricane. Major flooding making Atlanta neighborhoods impassable. Torrential rain, dangerous winds battered the state. The state's governor saying earlier that multiple people were still trapped in heavily damaged buildings. Rescuers are desperately trying to reach them. And he joins me now, the Georgian Republican Governor Brian Kemp. And Governor Kemp, I really appreciate your time. Are you even able at this moment to say how bad it is in Georgia?
Well, Aaron, it's so bad we are continuing to, really get a handle on how much damage it was. I just got a report from our Georgia Department of Transportation. I mean, they haven't even finished assessing everything because it's so hard to get to some of the roads. We've got interstates that have limited access. Obviously, communities just completely devastated that were in the path of the eye or on the east or right side of the storm, really from Valdosta all the way to Augusta, Georgia. 15 fatalities. We know one of those was a heroic first responder, which, just breaks your heart. And our thoughts and prayers are with all of those folks. But we still have people that we're trying to get to. It is a lot of devastation in the state of Georgia, but also obviously in Big Bend in Florida. And I talked to Governor McMaster in South Carolina. I know they got a lot of power out.
Yes.
A lot of loss of life there, too.
I mean, Atlanta, hit with such rain. I mean, that many have not seen in their lifetimes. Floodwaters stranding people at their homes. People have been rescued by boat in Atlanta, inland in the center of your state. Now, you said that multiple people had been trapped in those heavily damaged buildings. I mentioned that just before you came on. Do you have an update on that? Have they been safely accounted for at this time or not?
No, we're still trying to get to some of those folks. I mean, there was 115 different buildings we were told that had suspected people in there that couldn't be reached, and we're still trying to cut our way in there. It's so bad we hadn't gotten to all of them yet. The issue, too, speaking of the metro Atlanta area, Aaron, is we dealt with two storms. We had a storm in the state before Helene ever hit that came in from the northwest that created a vortex. And then Atlanta, we set a 48-hour rain record, over 11 inches of rain. The previous record was around 9 inches. So that created a lot of havoc before the hurricane even got into Georgia. And very unusual for us to have a Cat 2 hurricane, really unprecedented to even hit our state. Most of the time it downgrades to a Cat 1 or tropical storm. So that's what really has created the devastation, the loss of life. And we have a lot of work ahead of us to get power back on and to get roads cleared.
I mean, you've got nearly a million
just trying
people
to work
still.
Medical emergencies.
Nearly a million people
we
still
got a
without
million
power?
people without. We do, and then we've been working to try to make sure we got hospitals, nursing homes have power, get to medical emergencies, and just clear the roadway. There's so much devastation. The thing is with Georgia, I mean, this was a 400 or 500 mile wide storm, and it basically hit our entire state. So we're not dealing with, one area like you do in a traditional storm. It is essentially a statewide event that our emergency management folks are dealing with.
Oh, I mean, it is just horrible. And I know an exhausting time and all.
Back to our breaking news in our national lead, that deadly catastrophic storm Helene. CNN meteorologist Derek Van Dam caught these scenes in Apalachicola, Florida, hours after Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4 storm. Now he's just south of there in Keaton Beach. Derek, what's the latest where you are?
Yeah, we are reporting live from this very tight-knit community here along the Big Bend of Florida's coastline. And what you're looking at behind me is what remains of Keaton Beach Bums gasoline station that in just 3 days' time was about to celebrate its 5-year anniversary of being open. Instead, it's left in ruins. There are bathtubs and roofs of homes from the homes that used to reside 500 yards over my right-hand shoulder. As we got closer to the coastline, it became increasingly more difficult for us to traverse the roads. There were down power lines. There was a strong sense and smell of gasoline as we approached the region. That's because of a gas tank that toppled over in the surge. And Broward County is actually responding to that particular incident over my left shoulder here. So it shows you that interagency coordination of Broward County that's hours away from here as well. And I just want to show you the destruction that storm surge can bring, because this is so important. Let me take you to the sky. Not only did we take the brunt of 140-mile-per-hour Cat 4 winds, but the ocean that is over a quarter mile behind me pushed all of the water in from that shallow Gulf of Mexico, and it took all of this debris along with it as well. Storm surge is just so incredibly dangerous, and you know, it's 15 feet of storm surge or more, and that is exactly what the National Hurricane Center had forecast. And I can confirm that that is indeed what happened, because we saw debris high in the trees that still stand within this area, indicating the tops of the water levels that impacted this particular region. Now, there are homes that used to stand here that have been completely leveled or brought forward or inland by a quarter mile, and those are homes with people's memories, people's belongings. Let me take you to one person who evacuated, listened to the evacuation orders, but this is what he had to say about coming back home.
Man, I just lost my house. I have nothing else to go. My house is laying here in a pile. It was sitting right over there. There's pillars up in the ground. I got a wife and 2 dogs here with me. What am I supposed to do? We wasn't expecting the water. We expected some water, but not a daggum our house just disappeared.
Jake, you can evacuate from the coastline during a hurricane like this, but you can't evacuate your home, can't evacuate your car as well. It is so important to remember that, you know, you can hide from the wind, but you need to run from the water. And that is certainly what people here had to do to get out of harm's way. Jake?
All right, Derek Van Dam for us. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Right now in North Carolina, just north of Florida, excessive rainfall leading to disasters not seen in that region, we're told, since 1916. Dangerous floods and even landslides, which 2 people narrowly escaped while driving in the Black Mountains area of North Carolina. Take a look.
As you can see by the mud on the door, inside, and the windows, and the shattered back window, we narrowly escaped a landslide.
Virginia resident Kelly Keffer there taking this video after she and her husband survived a very close call with falling boulders. And Kelly's joining us now. Kelly, we're so glad that you're okay. You 2 made it out unscathed. Obviously, the same cannot be said for your car. Let's show people here that your back window blown out, your roof dented, covered in mud. Who was driving? What was going through your minds? Tell us about this horrible moment.
Well, fortunately, my husband was driving. Alan had very quick reflexes. He happened to look out the window on his side of the car and saw the whole side of the mountain start sliding down. And he stepped on the gas. Unfortunately, some rocks and dirt and trees apparently hit us, obviously doing a bunch of damage to the car.
Did you have any idea you were taking a risk driving when and where you were?
No, we had planned to come home Friday after visiting some friends in Pigeon Forge for a while. And we are from Chesapeake, Virginia. We are familiar with hurricanes. Just thought it was going to be some rain that we could drive through.
Are you still planning on driving home today? Is it safe enough to do so?
Yeah, we've been driving all day. We just pulled in. We're less than a mile from our house.
What would you tell?
So we made it home safely.
What would you tell anyone else in the future watching right now if they find themselves in a similar situation? They're driving and all of a sudden it seems as if a mountain is falling upon them. What do you do?
Step on the gas. Get out of there.
Step on the gas, get out of there. Well, we're so We're so happy you and your husband made it home, or about to make it home in a mile. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Stay safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's bring in now Florida National Guard Brigadier General Alex Harlamore. General, thanks so much for joining us. So one of the ways citizens stay safe in disasters such as this is through the efforts of National Guards members such as yourself and your team. Right now, Florida has about 3,900 National Guardsmen currently engaged in response missions in 21 counties throughout the state. What are you all seeing on the ground there? What areas appear to be the hardest hit?
Well, thanks for having me this afternoon, Jake. You know, at the end of the day, we got up early this morning, and actually we had quite a few soldiers and airmen that were in the impacted areas. But you know, as the light started to come up, we started to consolidate our forces in the Taylor, Dixie, and the Levy counties, basically getting as close to ground zero as we could that the road networks would allow, and working with some of the local first responders and some of the other teams out there. It's pretty devastating to look at. A lot of homes that have been wiped off the foundations, and a lot of people that are probably going to be having to restart their lives here pretty shortly.
The Florida National Guard is engaged in search and rescue missions, ground, water, air. How many Floridians have been rescued, do you know? And how many more might still need rescuing?
So far today, we've rescued at least 76 adults, and I know 4 children, so around 80. That number probably is going to increase as the days go forward. And then there have been a handful of pets going into that number as well. Also, we're working with, we at least deployed at least 13 rotary wing aircraft that are organic to our state. And Mississippi was able to give us 3 additional aircraft that we've been employing with search and rescue teams, also doing aerial observations, as well as flying food and water and other commodities into the impacted areas.
And where are you rescuing most of these people from? Are they stuck in their house? Are they on their roof? Give us some sense of the needs of these people that your team is rescuing.
Sure. So it varies from location to location. Some people have been, we identified them prior to the storm's landfall. So as we go out to those locations, working with local law enforcement agencies who have a pretty good idea of where these residents are still residing, we were able to take our high wheel vehicles, get as close to the residents as possible. And if we have to, we can put boats into the water to go up to the house, pull those people away from their front porches, or maybe in some cases even the roofs, get them back to the high wheel vehicle to where we could transport them to a safe area.
How does the damage you're seeing from Helene compare with other hurricanes that you've seen in your experience?
You know, every hurricane's a little bit different, and some are more rain events, some are more wind events. This one, we got a little bit of both, considering how fast the storm was moving. Thankfully, it was north of the state in pretty short order, but we're anticipating, you know, some additional rainfall that's going to come back into the state as those rivers begin to crest in the next couple of days. So it remains to be seen how much damage we're dealing with, but we're standing by ready to respond if that need is in fact the case.
You've rescued people from these. I've been covering these for a while, and I know one thing that we both know from this is that so many of the deaths and injuries actually happen in the wake of the storm, after it's gone. What do you want Floridians and anyone listening to us who's in the path of the storm or such to know right now in order to stay safe after the storm passes?
Well, it's important to make sure you can reach out to local law enforcement. We're working with those teams to make sure that we do the roving patrols, security presences, trying to identify who's still around so that we can get you the help you need. We're going to be knocking on doors. There's going to be lots of points of distribution that'll be set up through these impacted counties. We'll be making sure that people have access to food, water, showering facilities. So we're going to come around. We're going to look for you. And we're working with the local law enforcement agencies to basically confirm who's still in there that needs assistance.
All right, Brigadier General Alex Harlamore, thank you so much, and thanks for what you do.
And Carlos Suarez joins us now from Gulfport, Florida. So what are you hearing from people about the frequency and size of these storms and what kind of help they're getting right now from authorities?
Well, Anderson, the folks out here really are resigned to the threat of a hurricane. This is my third storm in as many years that has threatened Pinellas County, and it's never been a direct hit. And yet this time around, the damage was more significant. Just about everyone that we talk to out here readily admits that these hurricanes are growing in number, they're larger in size, and they're just as more powerful as the one that came before it. And yet all of them tell us that they plan on staying put, they plan on rebuilding and moving forward with their lives. As for what happens next out here and the help that these folks are getting, the National Guard is already on the ground. They got here earlier today. They're the ones that are organizing the safety and recovery effort moving forward. They're the ones that have to figure out how they're going to remove the nearly half a dozen sailboats that crashed ashore yesterday, including the one right behind me. Anderson?
Carlos Suarez, thanks very much. We intended to speak with the Asheville Assistant Fire Chief Jeremy Knighton right now, but he's been called away for an emergency response briefing. Let's go to Keaton Beach, Florida. Earlier today, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis toured the area and said that the vast majority of homes were destroyed, all because of massive storm surge. CNN's Ivan Rodriguez is there tonight. What are you seeing?
Anderson, just 24 hours ago, communities like this one along Florida's Big Bend were getting hit by Hurricane Helene, feeling those impacts, and now we're here standing in this field of debris. To my left used to be a gas station, and to my right here behind a market. Now you can see parts of shelving, a cash register, microwave, refrigerator, and really just destruction here all across this area of Keaton Beach. I want to show you a bird's eye view to get a better sense of where we are. This actually also used to be a neighborhood in Anderson. I spoke with one person who lives here in this area, and they told me that there's one home still standing. The couple who lived there was able to evacuate early, but the rest of the homes that were surrounding the home still standing there are now gone. And it's hard to even picture exactly where those homes used to stand because it's just now a field of debris. And on top of all this devastation, a lot of Florida's Big Bend still dealing with power outages. Here where we are in Taylor County, 99% of the county still here without power. To my left is a highway to get in here to Keaton Beach, Florida. It's been heavily trafficked all day long. Power lines were moved off to the side so that first responders and crews could get in. I spoke with the deputy as well a couple hours ago, and he mentioned to me that before the storm, residents here were actually given permits to then be able to return a little bit easier. And the people who I've spoken with so far, Anderson, many of them, as you can imagine, heartbroken, seeing images like these, telling us that they really have nothing left. Everything that they have is now gone. And this is just one picture of that widespread devastation we're seeing here in Keaton Beach.
And are there rescue teams out there working overnight? Is there a need for that? What's happening at this hour?
At this hour, a lot of crews we're beginning to see leaving, like this vehicle you see behind me here. During the early afternoon hours, we did see a lot of search and rescue crews going in, as well as different first responders from across the state of Florida. National Guard also had a presence here, flying helicopters over Keaton Beach. For right now, though, it's so dark, it's pitch black anywhere you really travel. Conditions are pretty dangerous. A lot of that traffic, as I mentioned, now moving outward. The recovery, as you can imagine, will resume again tomorrow.
All right, Ivan Rodriguez, thanks very much. I want to go back to Florida and someone we met last night, Michael Bobbitt, who lives in hard-hit Cedar Key. He told us he stayed behind to help as many elderly neighbors who refused to leave. Michael, I'm glad, first of all, you're okay. Tell us what you have been seeing there. How have the last 24 hours been?
Thank you for having me, Anderson. As bad as we thought the storm was when we fought it during the night, these images that you're seeing here, when we woke up to the morning, it was so much worse than we could have ever imagined. Just our little island is largely just gone. There are no commercial buildings of any note left. The vast majority of our homes were completely inundated with water. Streets where we know houses should be, there would just be missing houses. Sometimes like this image that you're seeing here, this house is supposed to be in another part of town. And then we would see just blank spaces where buildings used to be. The power of the storm was just, magnificent and terrible. I've never seen anything like it. We're just totally gobsmacked with the level of destruction here on the island. We're situated 3 miles out into the Gulf of Mexico, so we're totally exposed. And so we're really at the whims of the Gulf here. And when the water started to rise, they closed in on all sides. And they don't just trickle in like a gentle creek. They're a raging torrent, and with the force of a locomotive. It's just the most powerful, humbling, terrifying force I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, these images that you took, they're just, the nighttime ones are just terrifying. You know, you were staying behind in part. Your house is, I think, on a little bit higher ground. You have boats. You had people who, you know, you were wanting to check on others who weren't leaving, staying behind to help them if they needed it. Have you been able to check in with your neighbors? Is everyone doing okay?
We were, and in fact, we were able to get 2 elderly residents out of their low-lying house in the middle of the storm before the floodwaters got their home. Wow. And I brought them to my house, and they spent the night in my front bedroom. Until just a few hours ago, we had 2 folks missing here on the island, but thankfully they've been accounted for. So it looks like we've had no loss of life. We've had a few injuries, but you can see from these images, our post office is gone, our hardware store is gone. The bank is gone. Our market, the lifeblood of the town, our little mom and pop supermarket just doesn't exist anymore. This recovery is going to be measured in years and years, not months.
So right now, I mean, are there authorities on the ground, recovery services on the ground? What's happening there right now?
So the governor just left. We have the National Guard here. We have the Army here. The folks that wisely evacuated have not been allowed back on the island yet. We need another full day to get the island secured. We're going to welcome them back on tomorrow. So I've spent the day taking photos of 75 different homes, people who weren't allowed back on the island, but just terrified about how their home might be. And of those 75 homes, 60 of the photos and the messages and calls I made were to deliver the worst news those people had ever heard in their lives, that their home was just totally destroyed. There were very few happy stories today. Our island is just totally devastated.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm glad you're there and helping out with people and getting people word about their homes. But I mean, 60 out of some 70, I mean, that's just awful. Michael Bobbin, I really appreciate talking to you tonight. Thank you.
Godspeed, Cedar Key. Thank you, Anderson.